Hey everybody, it's your old buddy, Uncle Rich, the truth detector, live from Danbury, Connecticut. And guys, let's see, this is show 282. Today's date is 10/21, and the name of the show, guys, this is weird the way this worked out. The name of the show was going to be Emoluments. And guys, I tell you, I got to be honest with you. I didn't know what an emolument was. I thought an emolument was something they put on was a gravestone. But once I found out that Trump wanted to hold the G7 meeting at his Doral resort in Florida, I said, wait a minute. This sounds too fishy. I said, this crap don't float in my toilet. So I said, I'm going to try to figure out what's going on. And Mick Mulvaney came on Sunday with Chris Wallace, and he dug the hole deeper. And I'm saying to myself, man, oh man, this is going to be the story of the century. And then what happened? Sunday night, late Sunday night, Trump retracted everything. And, all of a sudden, it came to a screeching halt. And I said, you know what? I said, somebody had to leak the fact that Uncle Rich was going to come down on Trump. His aides probably said, Mr. Trump, Uncle Rich up in Danbury, he's going to come after you with these emoluments, and he's going to make you look like a monkey. And Trump probably said, God damn it, that Uncle Rich is on to me again. That's it. Forget it. Let's hold the meeting somewhere else. I don't want to argue with him. So guys, I'm sorry if I ruined everything. And Uncle Joey, I'm sorry because I promised to. Aha! That's who's got to be the leak. Uncle Joey. Joe, I never, come on, let me do my thing here. Don't turn me in right away. All that work goes for naught now. Now I got to change the name of the show. And there you, nice job. And guys, the reason why we have to change the name of the show, I was at a chili cook-off on Saturday, and I was speaking to an elder gentleman. I don't want to mention his name, but Ralph was a real nice guy. And we started talking about global warming and climate change, and poor Ralph didn't know if he was coming or going. And guys, it turns out that he watches Fox News. And he's in his, I'm going to say his 80s, but Ralph was a real nice guy. And I told him, I said, Ralph, if there's one thing I wish that you could take away from our little get-together. I told him, I said, I love you. I love you, and I want you to understand one thing. Sooner or later, you're going to see a temperature warming chart or a CO2 chart, and you're going to say, you know what? Uncle Rich was right. Thanks, Kurt. Look at that. Kurt's on the ball. And when he sees something like this, he's going to go, Uncle Rich was right. And guys, this is what it really comes down to. Talking to people. And what happens is this poor guy, he watches Fox News. He got everything ass backwards. And Kurt, we got to put ass backwards up too. But guys, there's another temperature chart. And who's the source? NASA. And guys, I asked him. I said, Ralph, what's your sources? And guys, he was stymied. He really didn't know. And the reason why he didn't know, Fox doesn't want you to know. They don't want you to look this stuff up. They just want you to listen to it and repeat it. And that's why we named the show Science. And you know, guys, when it comes to science, there are certain people that regardless of how many facts you show them, they simply refuse to believe what's in front of their face. So let's see one of those people who refuses to believe. Kurt, number one, please.
I've seen it, I've read some of it, and it's fine.
They say economic impact is devastating.
Yeah, I don't believe it. No, I don't.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Mr. Trump, science is not something you believe or you don't believe. It's that simple. When you see a fact, and we have a fact, let's say a fact that water will freeze at 32 degrees. You know what? We test it. We bring the temperature down to 32 degrees, and guess what happens? The water will freeze. At normal, sea level, I mean, there are some situations, but, most of the time, water will freeze, and we can test it and we can prove it. And another thing we can test and we can prove is the amount of carbon that we put in the air. That's right. That's right. But, when it comes to testing stuff, guys, there's really, thanks, look at that, guys, look at that CO2 level. That's what, the last 400,000 years, it never went above that line. Hey, Ralph, take a look at this chart and then call up Fox News and tell them to stop giving you the double reverse and making you look like a fool in front of your friends. And guys, it's not his fault. If your whole life you're taught that 2 + 2 = 5, and you just went around repeat 2 + 2 is 5, 2 plus, and somebody finally showed you one day and they said, no. Look, it's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get the idea? So in the beginning, you can be ignorant. But once you learn, now you're being foolish or stupid. But we're going to have Neil deGrasse Tyson, who was on Bill Maher, come up with 3 truths. And you say, what do you mean 3 truths? And he'll explain it to you. So, Kurt, number 2, please.
For example, in the case of the religious letters, I say there are 3 truths in the world. There's your personal truth. No one's going to take that from you. Jesus is your savior.
Truth.
Muhammad is your last prophet. These are truths. No one is going to take that from you. Then there's like a political truth. That's just what becomes true when it's repeated enough times, okay? But then there's the objective truth.
Like those first 2 you just said.
There's the objective truth, which the methods and tools of science are invented and designed to establish.
Right.
Those are true whether or not you believe in them.
So guys, whether or not you believe in it, it's true. Now you have to deal with it. And we're going to help. We're going to help some of the deniers and some of the Ralphs that are out in the audience. We're going to help them along. And guys, there's some people that want to teach our kids nonsense. And a lot of them are creationists. And you're going to say, Rich, that's not fair. You can't give creationists the business. No, guys. On the clips that we're going to play, they're going to give themselves the business. We're just going to play it. But guys, this first clip is with Ken Holden, and he's going to seem to take on the idea of the age of the earth. So Kurt, number 3, please.
But if you add up the dates given in the Bible, you'll find what everybody else has found through history that's done this. The Bible dates indicate the earth was created in 6 days about 6,000 years ago. It is not millions or billions of years old.
So you see that, guys? We want to tell our kids that the earth isn't millions or billions of years old. It's 6,000 years old. when we have trees, living trees on this planet that are older than 6,000 years? So why would you want to indoctrinate a kid into this nonsense? You know, why would you want to corrupt his mind with this foolishness? But guys, we're going to have a lot of fun, because not only are we going to show you the religious side, but we're also going to give you a little bit of the political side with a little bit of objectivity with one of our favorites, Bill Nye. So Kurt, number 4, please.
Bill Nye joins us now. Bill, it's great to see you. That doesn't sound like science to me, Bill Nye, the science guy. That sounds like something very different.
So cognitive dissonance is not a delusion. It's a feature. It's human nature. So we in the science community are looking for an explanation why climate change deniers, or extreme skeptics, do not accept the overwhelming scientific evidence for climate change. And the most reasonable explanation is you have a worldview, and then you have evidence, and the evidence disagrees with your worldview, so you deny the evidence, and then along with that, you deny the authorities that are providing the evidence. Now, if you have a better hypothesis for why climate deniers deny the overwhelming scientific evidence, bring it on. It's not...
Bring it on. All right, we're going to bring it on, but we're going to have a lot of fun bringing it on. Because, guys, we don't want to bash people for their ignorance. We only want to bash them when they're stupid. And by stupid, I mean when somebody looks at a temperature chart and denies it, well, that's stupid. But, guys, you saw what he said, where they, you know, a lot of the deniers will deny not only the evidence, but the authorities. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But next, we're going to go back to Bill Maher with even the panel members wouldn't touch this topic. So, Kurt, number 5, please.
And then slaves. He took slaves. But so did our founding fathers. The Bible is cool with slaves. Neither Jesus nor his dad, God, are against them.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
What?
Uh-oh.
It's not his dad?
I'm not touching this one.
Guys, she won't touch it, but we will. And we're going to touch it with Matt Dillahunty. And I don't believe I've ever let's say this is an introduction on this show. And normally, he's a very calm, cool, and collected type of individual. I tell you guys, he's taught me a lot. He really has taught me about falsifying things. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But this is a very short clip because he got very short with the person calling. And when you see why he got short, I think you might tend to agree with him. So, Kurt, number 6, please.
Okay, this will probably be quick. David in California, you're on with Jen and Matt.
Whoa.
It says here that you say slavery was completely morally acceptable.
Yes. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Slavery, as in owning other people as property, is completely morally acceptable?
I said it was.
Okay, you're wrong. Bye. I told you I'd be quick. We have Will in Pennsylvania with a question.
Questions. That's why we're here, and you're going to hear more questions. And I tell you, guys, it's, we're going to have fun. So just take it easy. All right, and let's see. And then the last short clip that we're going to have is Kathy Aho. She's a climate scientist who publishes peer-reviewed studies. A climate scientist who publishes peer-reviewed studies. So we're going to show you a clip from her and what she suggests we do with people who aren't up to par on scientific issues. So Kurt, number 7, please.
But the most serious and dangerous impacts are not here yet, and they can be avoided. How? By acting. What's the first step? The first step is actually to talk about it. Because studies have shown that 3/4 of Americans don't even hear somebody else talk about it more than once or twice a year.
Start the conversation. Guys, you see what brought me to the table? It's really simple. And like I always tell Uncle Joey gives me the business and I say, Joey, I can't be wrong. I got science on my side. Mother Nature is with me. You're with the fossil fuel industry. Why? You don't know. All you know is that anything that goes against the fossil fuel industry, you got to be against. Why? You're not so sure. But this is the way the Republican Party has corralled you and bamboozled you. So we're going to try to unbamboozle you. So now we're going to start playing the full clips. And we're going to start off with Bill Maher. And this is Bill Maher with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And this is part 1. So Kurt, number 12, hit it.
All right, he is the host of Nat Geo Star Talk, whose latest bestseller is Letters from an Astrophysicist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, everybody. Here he is. Doctor. Hello. Dr. Demento. You never disappoint with the tie.
Yeah, I'm glad.
You never disappoint with the tie.
The universe is vast.
How many universe ties do you have?
About,
You're like Trump has all the red ones. You have all
he
the...
occasionally wears a blue one, I have noticed, but not as often as he wears a red tie.
No, but
so this tie, I have about 109.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know it right, what, about 109.
Oh, sorry, yeah, okay.
Could be 111?
No, it was exactly 109.
Exactly. You're a very exact person. You know, your book is so interesting. I notice a lot of the letters that people write to you, and this is a lot of the, you know, you care to, you're very good with your fans. You want to know what they think.
It was what I was doing under the hood for decades while I had this public persona of talking about the universe. There's these personal, private things, issues that people had. And they wrote to me about it.
Okay, and one of the big ones that you get is people are asking you to sort of mediate between, gosh, I want to believe in God, but I don't want to not believe in science. Is there a way we can square that circle? What advice
I get a lot of those letters.
And what do you tell them?
I like the way you said square that circle. That's very mathematical of you. Congratulations.
You know me, Doc. I am all about the science.
So what happens is I think people might be raised in one or another religious tradition, and then they start learning science. Then they find places where the science conflicts. And I think most people have never met a scientist, much less can claim one as their friend. So they see me kind of as their friend who could then offer perspective, or at least shine some kind of cosmic luminosity on what next decision they want to make about how to reconcile or not their religious traditions with science. Enlightened religious people don't have an issue. You know, if Jesus is your savior, no one is going to take that away from you in a country that protects the free expression of religion. But if you're going to come around and say, my religious text tells me the universe is 6,000 years old, and I'm going to stick it in your science classroom, I have an issue with that.
Right.
But I'm not going to let you teach our kids that the world is 6,000 years old. Plain and simple. It's that simple. But anyway, I'll make it simpler because now we'll play part 2 where Neil starts to talk about your personal truth. So Kurt, number 13, please.
My religious text tells me the universe is 6,000 years old, and I'm going to stick it in your science classroom. I have an issue with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because
doesn't really help them.
Well, no.
You're basically saying I'm coming down on the side of science.
No, however, when people write to me, I see it as a contract of communication.
Right.
If I just speak and not care where they're coming from, then I'm just lecturing.
You're letting them down nicely. It's like, you know what, people sometimes say, they love this in America, they say, everything happens for a reason, which I always think of you, because I'm like, that is so good. Everything does not happen for, right? Am I right about that?
That is so correct.
Thank you so much. Because
most of what people think happens for a reason is random,
right.
And we create reason in it.
Also, it's elitist, because it's something you can say when you live in an affluent society where you have a lot of, you know, enough money to change jobs or meet new people. You live in a city. There's like 1 billion people who live on a shit pile every day, and nothing happens for a reason for them. They're born into grinding party and they die in poverty. Yeah, they die in it.
Definitely an elitist point of view. But what I wanted to say, I am known to agree with you.
There you go.
No, so I just wanted to say that the contract I have, it's an unstated contract between me and those who write to me, is that I will care about where they're coming from and how they're thinking and what receptors they might have for arguments I might present. So, for example, in the case of the religious letters, I say there are 3 truths in the world. There's your personal truth. No one's going to take that from you. Jesus is your Savior. Muhammad is your last prophet. These are truths. No one is going to take that from you. Then there's like a political truth. That's just what becomes true when it's repeated enough times, okay? But then there's the objective truth.
Like those first 2 you just said.
There's the objective truth, which the methods and tools of science are invented and designed to establish.
Right.
And those are true whether or not you believe in them. And so I say you can keep your 6,000-year universe, but understand that that's a personal truth that you get from your personal religion. If you rise to power and have control over laws and legislations in a pluralistic land, it is a recipe for disaster if you're going to take your personal truths and create laws that have to then apply to everyone.
Guys, you know, you teach kids that the world is 6,000 years old. To me, that's a form of child abuse. You can't do that. But I tell you, the Republican Party does it to the people in their party. They want to dumb them down. Why? So they don't ask questions. That's why we call the show Who's Telling the Truth with question marks. So now we're going to finish up with Bill Maher with clip number 14. And Kurt, this is the one at the end where you're going to, it goes to a commercial. So I'm back to me. There you go. So guys, I tell you, you know, he has fun. He's entertaining. He's informative. And, you know, they take no prisoners. You know, but science is facts and reality. It's really simple, you know? And the next clip, you know what, Kurt? I want to try to pull a change here. And the reason why is they were just talking about slaves. And I want to go to clip number 20, Kurt, if you would, because Mac Dillahunty does such a beautiful job. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but I tell you what, he's a little abrupt on these clips, but the guy is calm, cool, and collected. But you're going to see why he gets fired up. So anyway, Kurt, number 20, please.
Anyway, we got...
Nice job, Kurt.
I don't know, 20 some odd minutes and like 4 theist callers to get to, at least. Okay, this will probably be quick. David in California, you're on with Jen and Matt. It says here that you say slavery was completely morally acceptable.
Yes. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Slavery, as in owning other people as property, is completely morally acceptable?
I said it was.
Okay, you're wrong. Bye. I told you I'd be quick. We have Will in Pennsylvania with a question for me and Jenna. Does God believe in atheism? Is that what your question was, Will?
Calling Kurt Cell.
Yeah, that was the question, but I thought it was pretty classic that we had an atheist trying to straighten out a Satanist. Both live in darkness. If that ain't the definition of a house divided against itself.
It's not divided against itself. You know what I think was ironic? That I had another theist calling in to try to say that slavery was moral. Do you think slavery was moral?
Well, I'm not even...
Do you think slavery is moral?
Wait a minute. I haven't called to talk about that.
I'm asking you a question. Do you think slavery was moral?
is it moral?
Yes.
In what sense? Does it go against God or does it go against man? In what sense?
Is there a difference?
Isn't your view that...
Yeah, it is. God and man is the same?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Owning other people as property, would you say that is morally permissible or not?
I would say if I was to own a slave, I'm going to probably do to him the things that God does not want me to do to him. So because of that, knowing that I'm sinful, God is going to give me some rules to follow, even in my disregard of listening to him or loving him.
Why didn't you?
That would be my answer.
Why is it so difficult to say that owning people as property is immoral?
Because I don't think he thinks that.
I did say that, didn't I?
It didn't sound like it.
That, but I explained it through answering the question.
No, you added a bunch of other stuff. I said, do you think...
a bunch of other stuff. I
said, do you think that slavery is immoral? Do you think owning another person is immoral?
And what did I say about my stuff?
I don't know, but it wasn't yes.
Or no.
Sometimes you can't get the answers exactly how you want them.
Really?
But you can still...
Is it okay to rape people? Is it okay to rape people?
What you say?
Is it okay to rape people?
No.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Why couldn't you just say that about slavery?
People. But you can own them as slaves. And that's because why? Because it's in the Bible. It's in the good book. God said, not only did he say you can own slaves, he tells you how you can treat them. But guys, don't believe me. We're going to forge ahead. Kurt, we're going to go in order now with clip number 21. And this is Matt Dillahunty just having more fun. So Kurt, I know I threw Kurt a little bit of a curveball. So go to 21, which is part 2 of Matt Dillahunty, and we're going to go with 22 after that. Then we'll go back to that clip, okay?
Is it okay to rape people?
No.
Yeah. Why couldn't you just say that about slavery? Like, is that so hard?
Why can't you just say it?
You know why? Because the Bible advocates for slavery.
So we're going to justify it in whatever way we can.
There you
Exodus
go.
21. Woo. Hey, you think slavery is immoral? The last guy that called in was a theist saying it was moral. Talk about a house divided.
Maybe they should call each other.
Yeah, you guys work it out and then call us back. And your question, does God believe in atheism, is a ridiculous question, because if there is no God, then of course God doesn't believe in atheism. And if there is a God, then he does believe in atheism, because atheism is the position of people who don't believe that a God exists. If you understood any of that, you wouldn't look so ridiculous, and you wouldn't have to do a candy-ass tiptoe dance around a simple question about whether or not owning people as property is
He didn't
moral.
want to answer that question, though.
I think that God knows that I
know the
would
answer.
mistreat my slaves, so God will give me rules about how to not mistreat my slaves. Hey, why doesn't God give you a rule to not have... How weak and pathetic is your God that he's like, well, they're going to have slaves, so maybe I should tell them, don't beat the slaves so much that they die within a day or two, but you can beat them as long as they live more than a day or two. That's a ridiculous... I'm so done with that crap. Carlos in Florida, you're on with Jenna and Matt.
Hi, Carlos.
Hey, how you doing?
Let's see.
In all fairness, I mean, you guys didn't really give these guys an opportunity to explain their perspective on slavery.
What's your perspective on slavery?
Is it immoral to own people as property?
It is absolutely immoral.
So, okay, then we were already at a better starting point than we were with the other two.
Now, does the Bible allow and permit the owning of other human beings as property?
The Old Testament allows it. Yes.
Okay, why couldn't you just say yes?
Well, because there's a difference in that distinction.
Does the New Testament change the rules on slavery?
Correct.
Where?
Well, I can't give you the...
You're damn right you can't, because it doesn't. And also, why would God be so wrong about... Shut up. Why would God be so wrong about slavery for so long and then correct it?
Brother, listen, there's no reason to open up a dialogue like that. You're trying to...
Yeah.
This show's going to end really quickly because theists cannot be honest on this subject. and they don't know what their Bible says. And I don't need to go through this. I've already done 25,000 talks on slavery.
Yep. There's a lot of older videos y'all can all three go watch. Just type Matt Dillahunty slavery. I'm
sure by next month somebody will put together a 6-hour right. Here's Matt on slavery. And the number of times I ask people, is it immoral to own people? And very few times will we get a yes, clearly, and quickly. See, the truth of the matter is the Bible advocates slavery. Oh, wait, you said advocates, Matt. It doesn't say that you should have slaves. It not only does not say that you should not have slaves, it specifically tells you to buy your slaves from the heathen that surround you. It has a separate set of rules for Jewish slaves than it does for non-Jewish slaves. It allows you to beat your slaves as long as they don't die within a couple of days. It allows you to pass them on to your children because they are your money or property. It is a parade of injustice. And when somebody calls in and say, oh, that's the Old Testament. Well, the New Testament doesn't change that. Jesus doesn't say a word about, hey, you know what? You know that stuff we wrote in Exodus where the Father said that you can own slaves? That was wrong. I don't know who wrote that down, but let's correct that right now.
Yeah, so why didn't Jesus correct it? Guys, I got to be honest with you. This is one of the things that turned me away from Christianity and the Bible. You know, when you read Exodus 21. Just get your Bible, open it up, sit down and read it. And when you see how God tells you how you can treat your slaves, you're going to go, wait a minute, wait. And guys, I'll never forget. I went to a Catholic grammar school, all nuns except for third grade, Mrs. Phelan. And I'll never forget, I think it was the 4th grade. I remember where I was. I remember, well, all the nuns were tall. I was how old in 4th grade? But I said to her, I said, sister, I can't believe that God would want people to have slaves. And she said, Richie, no. God doesn't want you to have slaves. They're indentured servants. And I said, indentured servants? And I pictured somebody in patent leather shoes, in a black tuxedo, with a white shirt, with a white towel, holding a platter of long stem champagne glasses. So here's what I thought the slaves in Israel were. And then I got older and I said, wait a minute, that can't be right. They didn't have patent leather shoes back then. But guys, when you're growing up, you know, you have a nun tell you they were indentured servants. Okay, good enough for me. That's all I need to know. So guys, that's why we do the show. And we're going to finish up with Matt Dillahunty with clip number 22. So Kurt, hit it.
Jesus doesn't say a word about, hey, you know what? You know that stuff we wrote in Exodus where the Father said that you can own slaves? That was wrong. I don't know who wrote that down, but let's correct that right now.
Yeah, why didn't Jesus say that?
Slavery has been going on for generations and generations and generations, and you guys have used this book to say that slavery is okay, and I, Jesus Christ, am here to tell you today, you guys got it wrong, and slavery is not moral. What kind of weak-ass God fails to correct such an obvious error? What kind of weak-ass God creates a 10 Commandments where the first one is, I'm your daddy, worship me, don't have any other gods before me, don't have any idols. And then there's a couple good ones like, you know, don't lie, don't kill, but don't covet. Well, coveting is what the United States runs on, and it's what motivates people, hey, to keep up with the Joneses. Why isn't there one of the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not own a human being? Oh, gosh, we didn't think of that. It's embarrassing. It's the reason that I harp on this one thing. Oh, well, you didn't give them a chance to finish. You're damn right I didn't, because we've talked about it ad nauseum. And if you call in and you want to talk about slavery, and you say anything other than slavery is immoral, and then explain why the Bible is advocating for something that is immoral, I don't need to talk to you. Nobody does. Because you have sacrificed your morals and your humanity on the altar of a fictional God that is a jackass to women, to minorities, to non-Jews, etc., that advocates for infinite torment for finite crimes, that has a blood magic obsession of bring forward to me the animals and cut them open and burn them so that the pleasing smell of their blood. It's not barbecue. It is supposed to be a path for remission of sins. Oh, well, we've killed too many of the animals, so now I'm going to come down and take human form and sacrifice myself to myself as the ultimate sacrifice. So it's just nonsense. And if you don't see that you are advocating for a book that clearly has immoral passages in there, you should pay attention. But if you're the type of theist, if you're the type of Christian, because I'm not going to beat Muslims up for what the Christian Bible says, if you're the type of Christian that thinks there are things in the Bible that are wrong, as is the case when Ray Comfort called in years ago, and I talked to him about slavery, and Ray's answer was, well, I don't believe everything that's in the Bible. And that's a great answer, except for one big problem. What method do you use to figure out which parts of the Bible are right and which ones are wrong? If Moses writes 613 commandments, which ones do you get to ignore and why? If the Bible lets you have slaves and you don't think that's moral, which of the other things do you get to dismiss? And the truth is, every one of you Christians sitting out there, has invented a religion and a God of your own. You agree with the things that your conscience tells you is correct. I remember as a kid running around every time we'd move and we'd have to go pick out a new church. And we would go and we would visit a number of churches. You know which one we ended up with? Whatever one my mom liked the preacher best at. Mm-hmm. There was no criteria for determining who is actually preaching the word. It was which one made me feel better.
Or closer.
Well, yeah, which one was closest to the house? Which one made me feel better? Which one had the more charismatic sort of minister? Which one had more children at the church for my children to play with? Stop bullshitting yourselves and stop bullshitting the rest of us. You have no mechanism for determining what in the Bible you should accept and what you shouldn't. So you either need to take it all or throw it the fuck out. And that's exactly what the rest of us have done. And we're waiting for you to re-embrace your humanity and come and join us in the 21st century, because there's big shit coming down the pike, and your religion is standing in the way of us coming to the right conclusions and being able to work cooperatively toward a better world.
Yep.
A lot of his clips, and he's never that vicious. But you know, hey, when you think about the idea of owning another person, I mean, you gotta be kidding me. And now you could understand why he gets, you know, upset and excited. And you're gonna say, well, what type of people, you know, could obviously fall into this menagerie, into this trap? Well, guys, a lot of times the creationists. And you're going to say, wait a minute, what do you mean the creationists? And that's it. They don't care about facts. Fiction is good enough for them. So we're going to show you a clip from Kent Hovind. And guys, the nice thing is, this is from Potholder. And Potholder is the one guy that taught me how to cite my sources. He was a big influence. And I subscribe to him. And I tell you, he'll teach you a lot. But in this next clip, he's going to show you how he cites the sources, and the sources contradict themselves. And this is the reason why people like Kenny Johnson, Uncle Joey, Eddie Shaluk, the other Fruit Loops on Facebook get everything ass backwards. Why? Because they pay people to make it that way, to give you the double reverse. So, Kurt, let's have some fun with number, I think it's 16.
Hovind's busted out of jail. And what a wonderful gift the Lugermeister gave me on his release. In his very first video, he starts off talking about something that was going to be the subject of my next video, this video.
But if you add up the dates given in the Bible, you'll find what everybody else has found through history that's done this. The Bible dates indicate the earth was created in 6 days about 6,000 years ago. It is not millions or billions of years old. So this top timeline kind of indicates what the Bible teaches. 6,000 years ago, or 4,000 BC, God created everything. 4,400 years ago, there was a big flood in the days of Noah that destroyed everything. And that flood explains all the geology of the world, the canyons, the mountain ranges, the ocean basins, the continental shelf. And we cover all that on video number 5 or 6 of our series, which you can see right here on the YouTube channel. Then Jesus came 2,000 years ago, and here we are today, 2015. Today happens to be July 20th, and the Lord's coming back probably, hopefully.
Any idea when?
Soon, next 10, 15 years. We'll see about that.
Yeah, that's kind of what fundamentalists have been saying for the last 2,000 years. But credit where credit's due, Kent Hovind's absolutely right. Seriously, if you add up the dates in the Bible, they produce an age for the universe and the earth of just 6,000 years. That's why we know the Bible's full of crap, at least when it comes to scientific details. Because we've already seen in previous videos how 4 billion years of geological history doesn't fit into just 6,000 years, and how 3.5 billion years of evolutionary history doesn't fit into just 4,500 years. And in this video we're going to see how over 5,000 years of Egyptian history can't squeeze into 3,000 years. And unusually for this channel, we're not going to do it with historical, archaeological or scientific evidence. That would be too easy. I'm going to let creationists argue with themselves.
And this is the fun part. He's going to show you the sites that they use, how they used them. So we're going to let creationists argue with themselves. And it's a beautiful thing, and it proves one thing. You can always trust science, but you can't trust creationists. And you're going to see why. So Kurt, number, I think it was 17. Hit it.
I'm going to let creationists argue with themselves. For example, the fundamentalist encyclopedia, Conservapedia, tells us the chronology of ancient Egypt, the idea that Egyptian civilization is 5,000 years old, is the least settled of all the chronologies of the great powers of the ancient Near East. Highly dubious at best. Moreover, an increasing body of evidence now suggests that the history of ancient Egypt is shorter by several millennia than most scholars have previously supposed. More recent research now strongly supports the original conclusion of James Ussher. In other words, it supports Ussher's conclusion that the world is just 6,000 years old, and that Egyptian civilization arose after the biblical flood 4,500 years ago. What research supports this? Maybe a paper in the Journal of Archaeological Research, or Egyptian Archaeology, or the International Journal of Historical Archaeology, or World Archaeology, or the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology, or the Journal of Anthropology and Archaeology. I can't wait to find out. Well, if we click on the reference link, we find it's a website run by Creationist Ministries International. This is Conservapedia's source that an increasing body of evidence now suggests that the history of ancient Egypt is shorter by several millennia than most scholars previously supposed. And it's based, as you can see, on biblical stories and what Creationist Ministry International calls the truth and authority of the Bible. Meanwhile, most scholars and most encyclopedias still go with the wealth of archaeological evidence, like this one. Egypt has endured as a unified state for more than 5,000 years, it says, and archaeological evidence indicates that a developed Egyptian society has existed for much longer. And another entry in the same encyclopedia concurs. So which encyclopedia is it? Wait, what?
Great knobbly plates of toast!
It's Conservapedia, the same encyclopedia that told us this great age was dubious at best and contradicted by more recent research. And if we click on the link to Egyptian chronology, we come to, yes, that very page. So on the one hand, Conservapedia is telling us Egyptian civilization is 5,000 years old, and on the other hand, Conservapedia is telling us this is nonsense. That's what you get when you try to squeeze things into timescales that don't fit. You end up with your foot inside your own mouth.
Try to do stuff like that. Why do they want to? I don't know. I just don't understand. I mean, could it be that they're that? Well, I don't want to call them crazy. What do you say? Why do people want to try to mislead other people? So they can get them to come into church, so they can get them to pay money? I just don't get it. Kurt, I'm going to throw another curve at you now. And what I'd like to do is 23 and 24 are Allison Camerata. And she's talking with a climate scientist, Kathy Aho. But guys, it was, I think we're going to have enough time to run these next two clips. So it was either Bill Nye or Kathy Aho. And I think you all know Bill Nye. So let's learn from somebody we aren't familiar with. So Kurt, if you can, 23, please.
I've seen it. I've read some of it, and it's fine.
They say economic impact is devastating.
Yeah, I don't believe it. No, I don't believe it.
We don't care what you believe.
President Trump not believing a dire report from 13 federal agencies in his own administration, aided by 300 leading scientists, all of which predict that climate change will cause environmental and economic devastation in America by the end of this century. Joining us now is one of the scientists who helped write that report, Katharine Hayhoe. She's the director of the Climate Science Center at Texas Tech University. Katharine, great to have you with us, and we're so glad that you can help us sift through all this because it's more than 1,000 pages, and so we need your help boiling it down. But it just gets more and more disturbing the more you dive into it. Here are some of the findings. Higher temperatures are already happening. They will increase deaths. Food and waterborne illnesses will spread. Wildfires, as we've just seen so painfully in California, will increase. Floods, as we've just seen after hurricanes, will be more frequent. Asthma and allergies will be worse. Crop production will decline because of high temperatures and drought. Seafood industry predicted to lose $230 million by the end of the century. It's all so dire. What are we missing? What do you think the headline from this report is?
What we're missing is the fact that climate is already changing and it's affecting us today in the places where we live. It's no longer a future issue. Today, in some places in coastal Florida, property prices have already dropped 7% along the coast compared to just inland. Wherever we live, whether we're subject to wildfire, hurricanes, heavy precipitation, flooding, heat waves, we are already experiencing the impacts today.
And so when you hear President Trump say, I don't believe it, I don't believe it, I know that, I mean, you've said something funny previously where it's like not believing in gravity. Climate change doesn't care if you believe in it or not. It's still happening. But what does it mean for the rest of us that he doesn't believe in it? Could some of this stuff be staved off if our leader believed in it?
Carbon emissions are kind of like smoking. The best time to stop is now. If we can't stop now, then as soon as possible. So every year that continues without serious action to reduce and eventually eliminate our carbon emissions is another year of guaranteed impacts further down the road.
And so, I mean, since you're so steeped in this material, when you hear the president say he doesn't believe it, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel frustrated because, again, you can say I don't believe in gravity, but if you step off the cliff, you're going down. So we can say I don't believe climate is changing, but it's based on science that's over 150 years old. And if we're making decisions that don't just affect us, but that affect hundreds of millions of people based on flawed or faulty information, the result is not going to be good.
You know what the skeptics say. I'm sure you've heard it a million times. They think that all of you scientists are self-interested, you're doing this because you're bankrolled by other people, that some of your predictions in the past haven't come true, therefore you're, I guess, delegitimized. Here are, just yesterday, what some of the skeptics said. Listen to this.
A lot of these scientists are driven by the money that they receive.
The report is nothing more than a rehash of age-old 10 to 20-year assumptions made by scientists that get paid to further the politics of global warming.
We have created a climate change industrial complex in this country with billions and billions and billions of dollars at stake. A lot of people are getting really, really, really rich off the climate change issue.
Catherine, are you just rolling in the dough? Is that why you're doing this? You're just cashing in?
A lot of people are getting really, really rich off of climate change. What's wrong with these Republicans? What's the problem? Why can't they just admit we've got issues, we've got problems, we need to address it, and stop with this nonsense? I mean, you saw them. These people are evil. And Kurt, we're going to go ahead with the next clip, which is 24, which will be part 2 of Allison and Kathy Aho. And then we'll run the credits, and I think that's going to run us out of time, so hit it.
Catherine, are you just rolling in the dough? Is that why you're doing this?
Rolling
You're just
in the
cashing
dough.
Rolling on the floor laughing is more like it. I got paid $0 to write this report. My salary would have been exactly the same if I had or hadn't. And if I were studying astrophysics like I used to, I'd probably get exactly the same salary as well. The reality is, I've found, is that people often accuse us of doing what they would do themselves in our position. If we just cast our eye down the richest corporations in the entire world on Wikipedia's list, the vast majority of those owe their wealth to fossil fuels, so therefore they have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo as long as possible.
Catherine, I think that it's hard, even for regular people, even people who aren't skeptics, to know what to believe, because it's also overwhelming. It makes people feel powerless, so it's easy to turn away from this. What will happen? I mean, what do you want people to know in terms of, if we do nothing by 2050, say, what will our lives look like?
The most important thing, I think, to know is that our choices matter. A certain amount of impacts are inevitable because of what we've done before. It's as if we've been smoking a pack of cigarettes a day for several decades. But the most serious and dangerous impacts are not here yet, and they can be avoided. How? By acting. What's the first step? The first step is actually to talk about it. Because studies have shown that 3/4 of Americans don't even hear somebody else talk about it more than once or twice a year. I'm not saying we have to dive deep into the science, but this report, the National Climate Assessment, offers a great opportunity for us to say, hey, I live in the Northeast, the Midwest, the Southwest, Texas, Florida, Louisiana, and here's what's already happening in the places where we live. Here's why it matters to us personally, not the polar bears, not future generations, but us. And then it's important to talk about what we can do about it. The fact that in Texas, we have 25,000 jobs in the wind energy industry already. The fact that the coal mining museum in Kentucky put solar panels on the roof. The fact that our economy can continue to grow and thrive as we transition to clean energy.
Catherine Aho, it is so helpful.